If your hips always feel tight, whether it is that you sit at a desk all day, train hard, or don't simply move as often as you should, you're going to need more than just doing some stretches. That's because tight hips don't just come from lack of mobility, they come from weakness and imbalance. Tight hips are the result of muscle weaknesses and imbalances, and if you're only stretching, you're missing out on half of the solution. In this video, I'm going to show you 2 exercises that'll help you build lasting strength, mobility, and control over your body so that your hips will stay open for good. Before we dive into these 2 exercises, let's quickly talk about hip anatomy. Our hip joint is a ball and socket joint, which just means that the head of the leg bone, the femur, sits inside of the hip socket. One of the great benefits of having a ball and socket joint is that it allows for a large range of motion through a lot of degrees of movement. So we can flex up, extend back, abduct and adduct, and then do circumduction, which is circles with the hip as well. And in order to have all these degrees of freedom of movement, we need lots of muscles in different positions that can support and pull and create that movement in our hip socket. And what can happen with our daily lives or sitting or training hard is that we end up using just a few of these degrees of freedom of movement and we don't train the other ones. So the common one is that we are in a hip flexion with the knee up to the chest, just like a seated position in a car or at a desk, and we're not training true hip extension enough. And if you are extending, it might be coming from the lower back, you're extending the lower back, but you're not actually getting that hip to fully extend through. And stretches can offer some temporary relief from this, such as doing a quad stretch or the couch stretch where you put your back leg up on a couch, but you might find that your hips still stay tight after maybe just a few minutes or an hour of relief. That's because while you're stretching out the tight hip, you're not addressing the muscle weakness and imbalance of the glutes and any of the muscles that extend the hip forward. So now the question is, how do we train hip extension? Here are 2 exercises that'll help you train hip extension and open up your tight hips. So the first of our 2 exercises is the glute bridge hold with knee flexion. It's a long name, but it's an easy exercise. I'm going to show you how to do it. So what you're going to do, you're going to get on the ground, do a glute bridge position. So weights in my heels, squeezing my glutes, bracing my abs so that I don't arch the back. I can extend the hips by pushing, squeezing my glutes, and I can get a bit of a stretch through my hip flexors. The knee flexion part, you can see I shuffle my foot in here a little bit. Weights in my left glute, my left heel. I'm bringing this knee up to my chest. That's gonna help me tilt my pelvis a little bit more, get more of a stretch through here in my hip flexor, in my psoas. It's going to challenge the glute a lot more. And I'm lean back, keeping the hips up. I'm going to hold this for 15 to 30 seconds. We're going to do that 2 to 3 rounds. You're going to do it on each side. And you're looking for that stretch in the top position without extending your back because we're working on hip extension to combat this hip flexion from a lot of sitting. And the second exercise I follow up after that glute bridge hold is a isometric lunge hold. So everyone knows what a lunge position is. I'll actually do it this way. We're gonna hold the bottom of the lunge position. And I recommend doing this in a mirror for the first couple of times because often you might not notice that you're pitched forward with that hip flexion position. And we wanna be quite upright. So one foot's in front of the other. With my back leg, I'm going to be getting more of a stretch in my psoas, my hip flexor. Squeezing my abs, squeezing this glute, and I'm going to drop down. And this is going to feel more extreme because I'm bending my knee at the same time as trying to keep my hip extended. It's going to be tougher than just when you're laying on your back, working on the hip extension with a bent knee. So glute bridge hold first, and then you can come into this one. Weights in the heel of the front foot, up tall, abs. I'm trying not to arch my back too much, but I want to be straight up and down where I can squeeze that glute. And I'm going to hold that for 15 to 30 seconds. You can already see my legs shaking a little bit because I need to work on these. But I can get that hip flexor instead of being in this pitched forward position. That's going to work my front leg more. Here we're trying to work on the back leg. We're loading up the hip flexor so that it can open up, we can get it stronger so that we're not stuck in that hip flexion bent leg position. So keeping these 2 exercises in mind, let's remember that if you have tight hips and want to open them, you're probably going to need more than just some static passive stretches to achieve that. You're gonna need something like these exercises to create control, strength, and coordination. And these could be classified as loaded stretches or dynamic stretches. And to really get the best results out of these two exercises, while you do 2 to 3 sets of 15 to 30 seconds, I'd recommend doing them daily for at least 2 weeks to see if you notice any changes in your hip extension and your tight hips. If you found this video useful, I would really appreciate if you would drop a like or a comment down below saying what you would like me to give advice on next. And if you could hit that subscribe, it would be really appreciated. Thanks for watching. Now get those hips moving.